Hi, I'm Talisa, the owner of 10x Marketing Consultancy, where we help businesses to 10x their lead generation with content marketing strategies.
I'm Josh from Big Sky Creative. Since 2011, we've been helping brands grow online through creative video content.
And I'm James, and I've worked in audio my whole life, and now I run Sound Media, where we help brands to create amazing podcasts for their business. Together, we want to help you create better content. Welcome to Content360. Today we are looking at the subject of LinkedIn, so a social media platform that's really popular with businesses, and maybe if you're not in business, it's maybe not something that you use so much. So how do we get the most out of LinkedIn? Talisa, this is a subject that you're really hot on.
Yep, absolutely. I actually class LinkedIn as like the Facebook of 2008, because I think the actual engagement on there at the moment is very high. It's easy to get noticed, to get connections, where I think platforms like Facebook are getting increasingly more difficult. So yeah, in terms of LinkedIn though, I guess it's looking at the approach of your personal profile and then a company page if you do own a company as well. And I think there is quite a big of a difference there in terms of content. But in terms of like us guys, how do we all use it? How do you use it? Go on, Josh.
I really don't use it enough.
Yeah.
I keep getting told I should use it more. It's just not the first platform I think of when I think, because we were in video production, it's not the first platform I think of when I think, right, where am I going to post my video? Having said that, I do know that the algorithm is starting to favour video content more.
Absolutely.
And it is something we are looking to use more and get the company page set up as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a really big fan of LinkedIn, and certainly in terms of what I'm going to kind of class as professional content, so stuff that's kind of related to business and what I do and podcasting and audio and stuff. It's probably the platform that I use the most and get the most engagement from. But what I tend to find as well with people, and it's interesting what you're saying there, Josh, that I think people who get LinkedIn love it, and then there's people that maybe don't get it so much and don't really know how to maybe get the most out of it, who kind of say, "Oh no, I don't really use it," because I think it is something that you've got to spend some time on before it starts to make sense. When I first joined LinkedIn, I was like, what's the point in this? This just doesn't mean anything.
Well, I guess LinkedIn to begin with, it was known as like the recruitment social media platform.
Yeah.
Like people went on there to find a job or, to put in, or, to apply for things. So I think that's, the old school way of how LinkedIn used to work, but it's definitely transformed.
I used to use it in sales. When I first got out of uni, I went into like a graduate sales position, and we just used it to find out the names of like decision makers, so we could try and sell more stuff basically.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of maybe tarnished my perception of the platform at first, because that's what it always used to be used for. And I think with the introduction of things like the stories and more of an emphasis on content, they're now starting to become more in line with Facebook and Instagram maybe.
Yeah, it catches up all the time on what other platforms are doing, like you've just said. Stories, they've got the benefits of being able to publish articles now, which I know there's a couple of changes on. You can add PDFs on there, so you can do like slide posts like Instagram do quite easily. Polls even, similar to, Facebook in that sense. So it does offer a lot of types of content to, change it up each day on what you can be posting to try and bring in some engagement to your audience. But again, it's important to realise who is your audience on that platform and what would they prefer to see and engage with as well.
And I think LinkedIn is a platform that's very easy to do quite badly. I think it does require some thought.
Yeah.
I see people probably every day who are publishing stuff on LinkedIn that they're taking the time to publish, which is brilliant. It's just not really that well thought out. I'm not really sure what the point of it is. It's not really getting any traction or any engagement. And I mean, this applies to all social media really, but particularly with LinkedIn, it's got to be planned out. You've got to spend the time, preferably kind of, taking real time out of your calendar to take a step back and look at, let's say, like a full month to figure out, right, what are you going to post where? Because I think if you are always trying to sell something, people are going to tune out from you. If you are always talking about yourself, again, people are going to start building an idea about who you are and start making judgments on you. Yeah. You've got to get a really good mix of content, and that is in terms of what it's about, but also in terms of the format as well. Like, I find I do quite casual videos on LinkedIn quite a lot, and they do quite well. They do all right.
Yeah.
But if I did it every day, people would just be like, "I him posting that video again." So you've got to get some photos. You've got to get some longer pieces. You've got to get some stuff that's like looking at your industry. You do need to do some stuff that's personal, and I find actually that I get by far the most engagement on stuff that I do that is like a personal thing. But again, I think if I did that every day, people would just think he just likes talking about himself.
Yeah.
So getting that blend right is quite important, and it's quite difficult, and that's why I think you've really got to plan your content on LinkedIn well.
Absolutely. And I think there's quite an argument on LinkedIn about, people who do go too personal with some posts, that some people don't like it because they're saying, this is a professional platform, I don't need to know when you're walking your dog, X, Y, Z. But I think you've just got to get that balance and understand, okay, who is your audience and what would they want to see and hear a bit further. But in terms of like LinkedIn as well, obviously you've got your personal pages, you've got your company pages.
Yep.
Now, obviously within 10x Marketing, I obviously do a lot of content for clients of mine across both pages, and definitely company pages don't get the level of engagement as a personal page. And I think it's similar in that sense to Facebook, like business pages are dying of death. And you do feel like it is a pointless task of doing.
Yeah.
But what is a benefit of a company page, it might not necessarily get engagement too much, because I think most company pages engagement is from employees, unfortunately. But what it does do is, in terms of people searching your company name into Google, LinkedIn's literally the first or the second result that comes back. So from an SEO point of view, it's an amazing tool to use. You might not want to do a post every day on your company page, but you might want to do it either a couple of weeks or even once a week, just to make sure there's some consistency on there and it looks like there's someone working on it and it's not just been left for months on end.
I agree with that, and in the way that I sort of plan my stuff on LinkedIn, I do that whereby I'll think, all right, that's something that I'm going to use on both my personal profile and on my business page. But most of it will be stuff where I'm just going to keep that my personal profile and not include that on my business page, so that there's stuff on there. But I agree with what you're saying, that I find there's very little traction from a business page, and you get to the point where you just think, is this even worth doing anymore? But you're quite right. I think in terms of people finding you and finding your business, it's got a real role to play.
Yeah. I guess the reason why I started using LinkedIn so strongly in the last, 18 months is obviously when I started my business, you put yourself out there to go to all these online networking events, online, obviously COVID, and it was the place to be to try and connect and further that relationship with people further.
Yep.
So that was the main reason I started using it to begin with in that sense. Then I realised, okay, a couple of posts that I was doing now and again was starting to get quite good engagement. So I thought, okay, this needs to be a good strategy for 10x Marketing and myself to try and grow that exposure as a content marketing leader, you could class it as. So now I do a post every day on there. Some days it's very similar to what goes on the 10x Marketing page. I just maybe switch up the copy a little. So, so like we as a company, I'll say it from I, as the owner. And then I think some added reactive style posts in there work really well as well.
So at the beginning you said there's the two, to get the company page, that's really good for SEO, and then you doing your profile right is really important. So people who are using the platform are not really engaging with it properly yet. What are some mistakes that people often do on the platform, on their personal page, and what should they be doing to represent themselves when people land on them? I
guess a big mistake from what I can see is people using their personal profile to really go with the hard sell approach, and just only thing they do is talk about, I do this, I do that, I can help you with this, rather than bringing any personality or relationship building on there. I think that's really important, especially from your personal page itself. People don't want to be seeing you constantly just trying to sell at them.
Nope.
Or like we've discussed previously, is how people use outreach to be absolutely annoying as hell. Like, how many people do you get every day that's trying to connect with you on LinkedIn? You think, okay, I'll accept them. Is it someone that I want to, is it relevant or not? And that's up to how you use LinkedIn. And then you'll see them come through straight away, bang, an inbound message comes through. You
can spot them a mile off now, can't you? You really can. And it is a business platform. I don't think it's a direct selling platform.
No.
In the same way that when you go to, we've all been to like networking meetings, and there's that one person there that you really feel like they're trying to sell to you, and it's like, I've not come here to be sold to.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn's the same. Like, it's good to know what people do, and I'll see people and think they're going to be really useful to remember, or actually I might want to fix up a one-to-one with them and get to know a bit more about what they do. But I don't want to feel like I'm being sold to. And we've all got a responsibility, therefore, to kind of do the same. And that is, I think it's all right to put some sales messages out there, but don't try, kind of tell people what you offer and tell people about your services, but don't try and sell them first person to your contacts. And I hate the thing whereby you connect with someone and within 2 minutes you've got a direct message from them. It's I just find it rude, and I'm not convinced that it works. I don't think it works, because I think most people will be put off by someone that does that. I want to engage with you by the content that you create, not because you've come diving straight into my DMs.
I think people are a lot more clued up on it now, aren't they? And you absolutely can spot it a mile off.
You can.
And you just get your back up straight away.
It does.
Nobody it's like the new door-to-door salesman, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nobody likes that, being interrupted when you're trying to get on with something.
No.
So what kind of, if you're trying to build more engagement and relationships with people on the platform, what kind of content works best? Because I've always imagined, personally, I always use it on my laptop. But as we were discussing earlier, people do using on the phone quite a lot now as well,
I was
don't they?
surprised at that stat. 57% of people use it on mobile. And it's actually the least used app that I use on my phone.
Yeah.
But I'm on LinkedIn every single day, and I have it open as I'm working, and I use it predominantly on desktop, so it's interesting that side. Obviously, we know video performs very well. The platform favours it because they're keeping the people on there longer to do that.
It's a good way to show your personality off as well, and to try and create a bit of a connection.
It is, yeah.
And I think sometimes people would post a video and get a bit sort of put off by it if they don't get this instant traction. But not every video you post can be a runaway success or go viral. I think there's a statistic that every 30 days there's more video content uploaded than the entire last 30 years of the US major TV channels have created, which is a lot of content, isn't it?
Wow. It's a good stat.
But people shouldn't just be thinking, well, if it's not gone viral, it's not done anything. If your video just starts a conversation with somebody new and gets somebody talking to you, to me, that's still a success.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not about brute force, I don't think, LinkedIn. And you shouldn't really view it as being try and get as many likes as you possibly can, because they can kind of be meaningless. This is where I mentioned earlier about, I find that personal content does tend to get more engagements, but I'm not going to get business from that. I need engagements with the stuff that's maybe more industry led, or about a service that I offer, or about work that I've done with a client, is probably going to be more productive from people thinking, oh, that's nice. Nice is lovely, and there's definitely a place for it. But I think that's where that blend of content becomes really important, and also realizing that don't let it become a vanity project where you're just trying to get likes, because that's not really what it's about. It is about getting your post in front of as many people as possible, but that's got to happen very, very organically. And I think organic's a real key word for us to kind of think about when we talk about LinkedIn as well, because it's not like places like Twitter where you'd retweet something, or where you'd share something on Facebook. The LinkedIn algorithm, as I understand it, really favours people who are producing organic content rather than sharing other people's and adding their own comments onto it. So it is really about producing genuinely your own stuff.
Yeah. So a few things in terms of like posting content on the platform. The quicker that you get a comment, especially, that's probably the highest pointed element of engagement. The more LinkedIn thinks, okay, someone's commented on that, it's interesting, let's show it to even more people. So comments is probably the best kind of engagement that you can get on something that you are posting. But I think what is amazing with LinkedIn, and it surprises me still now, and it is like what Facebook used to be like, in terms of I can post something today, it can get a little bit of engagement today, but then in 20 days time it'll still be getting engagement and it's still appearing in people's feeds. Like, there's no other platform on social media that has that anymore.
It's true.
Literally, Instagram, an hour later, it's gone. See you later. No one's seen it anymore after you've posted it.
Yep.
And I think that's, awesome with how LinkedIn's working at the moment. I think that's why it is so favoured.
Yeah, a lot more longevity to what you're posting. Interesting what you're saying about comments as well. So a lot of time people in networking groups will ask for engagement to help boost, and I suppose just going on there and hitting the like button's lazy. It's not really helping. No. So if we want to kind of build more of a community and help each other.
Yeah.
Just taking a few seconds to comment and just say,
Yeah.
that, even just thanks for sharing something is a big help to other people.
Yeah. And obviously, on the social media platform, to try and obviously get a bit more reach, there is the use of hashtags which work on there, similar to Instagram.
Yep.
It's recommended between 6 and 9 to be used, where obviously Instagram you can use 30. So there's a lot more that you can use on Instagram, but they try and keep it a little bit more, small and short. But they do work. So it's always important to think, okay, what 6 to 9 kind of hashtags can I put on this post that's going to be relevant to what I'm talking about, to try and reach, people outside of your actual, first base connections as well.
It is a platform where you can edit posts, and I'm never really sure about whether this is good practice or not, because I've found myself in the past when I've edited something on LinkedIn that it just tends to bomb after that.
It produces. Same with Instagram. I'll always say to someone, if you feel like you've made a mistake, I'd rather someone actually delete it off and repost than edit again. Because if you edit it, it's just... LinkedIn instantly knows, okay, there's something wrong with that, so they're not going to show it as many people, so they reduce your reach down.
That makes sense. What I kind of just go with the check and triple check kind of approach to it, which is, if I try and post once a day on LinkedIn, no more, no less. And if I can't find the time to spend 5-10 minutes just checking what I'm going to post before I do it, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm just not. I'm not approaching it in the right way if I haven't got time just to make sure that it's spot on when you're posting once a day. Yeah.
Well, going to the one post a day element, a top tip from that is, because I work with quite a lot of LinkedIn coaches myself as clients, I do their content, so I get all the internal, the best practices. But in terms of your consistency of posting, they do say to post just the once a day, no more. And how the LinkedIn platform works is, say you've got 100 connections, for example. If you post one post, it'll be shown, fingers crossed, to 100 of those people. If you do 2, it's split, so post 1 only can show to 50, post 2 goes to 50 as well. So you're instantly reducing how many people is going to actually look at your posts.
Watering it down.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense to spread it over time. And this again is where the planning element kind of comes into its own, isn't it? Which is, if you think, this is a brilliant thing to post, actually, do you need to post it right there and then, or can you plan it in for like a week next Tuesday? You think, actually it'll fit nicely there. Spread your content out, and I think there's some really good best practice that we've talked about there, but there's some really interesting themes, aren't there, that are coming through about that planning the content and getting the right blend just keeps coming back up all the time.
It makes life easier as well. I mean, if we're being honest, creating content all the time is quite laborious, and it can be quite hard if you're trying to run a business as well. And I know when you're doing something exciting, it's tempting to just shout about it straight away and get it out there. But make your content work harder and just spread it out a little bit more, and you're going to get more from it eventually, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, what you do, Talisa, is literally all about that, isn't it? About how the fact that, rather than just throwing a piece of content away as soon as you think of it, you can actually, you can make the most of it and spread it over really several pieces of content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that repurposing element across. I mean, when I do, content for LinkedIn for clients, some people just prefer like the 3 posts a week, so maybe not once a day, just reducing it down a little bit. But kind of in terms of the content categories that I work on, it's called the 3E mentality, which stands for, the first one is like an educational style post, so something where you're showcasing yourself as a thought leader. Number 2 is like an entertain style post, so again that can bring the personality aspect in. And then the third one is emote, so that's bringing in, it might be case studies, it might be testimonials, or showcasing latest work. So it's trying to split your content categories across those elements, and we'll usually do that in like 4-week blocks, so as a month, so we've got it all ready to go.
Yeah.
So do you post your content direct to the platform, or do you use a scheduling platform separately?
There is a mix. My personal preference is to do it organic. I still think your reach is better doing it organic. I can see it.
I don't think the blanket set a post and send it out to Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn the same way works either, because every platform requires something slightly different.
Yeah, we always tweak. We'll have different columns for different social media platforms. It'll always be around the same topic, but we'll tweak the copy a little bit per platform that it's going on. I mean, instantly for like Instagram, you can't put a link in there in your caption. Like, it's absolutely pointless. It doesn't hyperlink. So just, you can't have that similar to like LinkedIn if you did have a link in there. So I think it's just making sure you are doing it for the right platform, for the right format, definitely.
I found it's caused problems for clients as well. A lot of the posting scheduling platforms, they don't like your larger video files.
Can't do videos, most of them, yeah.
Yeah, so it creates a lot of issues. And I often find that if you upload a video direct to each platform, that it performs better than, say, just sticking it on YouTube and just sharing the link, because Facebook, Instagram, they're all the same. They want you to stay on their platform, not to click out to YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other things that I've found, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I might post a link to a podcast that I've done. So, you know, this is something that I'll probably post a link to this when this is published, and then I'll write my own blog about one little element of what gets discussed. So rather than doing a blog about the whole podcast, about just one little element of it, and then I'll do like a little video about a different element of it. So I'll get 3 different pieces of content across different formats from what could have been thrown away as one post, and I find that really works, and it actually makes it all start to feel a little bit more manageable once you kind of get to that point where you think, yeah, actually I can do a video about that, and it's not just you reading out your blog, you're doing a piece of content that's related to that same initial kind of thing or event or content that you did, and that really works. What I'm always a little bit confused about, and everyone still seems to do this, is using links within your posts on LinkedIn, because it doesn't display them in the way that you put them in. It does change them to its own kind of LinkedIn shortcode. And I see a lot of people even now who still put, and I do this, link in the comments and add the first comment as a link, which I'm always wondering whether or not that's because it displays properly in the comments, or whether it means, all right, LinkedIn thinks there's a comment there straight away.
Yeah. I've tried and tested, and so far I can't say there's a massive difference between each. I think there used to be a bit more of a difference between putting the link in the actual post, and it didn't work as well. But I'm sure there's some algorithm change where now it is actually, it's not degrading at all on the post anymore.
Right.
And I think for me, personally, it annoys when people put it in as a comment for me as a user, because I'm like, I've just got to go to another place then to, like, I know it's only underneath, but you might have to click through again. It's like 2 taps, do you know what I mean?
To find through to where you actually want to be.
But it is just personal preference. And I guess another angle for me in terms of how I engage with posts and what I've got from client examples is, if it's just text as a post, never works as well unless it's got like a video or an image with it, because I think when you're scrolling through that feed, firstly, your eye catches anything quite engaging. So make sure, I always say try and put at least, a graphic with it if you are going out on there.
I'd counter that slightly by saying, I don't think it's the end of the world to do something that is a plain text post on LinkedIn. I think if it's interesting enough, it will still take off, and I think it can still be part of that mix. So I've got out of the habit of beating myself up a little bit if I think, I've not put a photo with that or something, because it will still, if what I'm saying is interesting enough, and sometimes it helps with that blend to have something that's just a plain text post, maybe just 3 or 4 lines.
I think it's just making sure that first sentence that you see before having to write, see more, is a hook that's going to get people straight in. That's going to speak to people.
So we've put a lot of information out there. What can people do now then? A few instant quick tips after listening to this podcast. What can they go onto LinkedIn and improve how they use the platform straight away? What would you say to them?
Always my first top tip is to make sure your profile's in the right way. I think a lot of people, might set up a profile, not really fill much out, not even put like a cover image on, and it just doesn't look engaging, do you know what I mean? Or using like their headline as their job title. Like that's the way that people used to use it. So I'd always say make that, your prime focus first off before you even think about your content. So you need to, your shop window, you could class it as, needs to look and sound professional. So that's top tip 1. Then start to plan. Don't jump straight in. I think we need that plan element of looking at your strategy of your content. Who is your target audience? What are they wanting to hear? What kind of questions are they asking you? Like, what, in terms of you as a personality, like what do you want to get across to your audience on how you work, what your life's like? start to plan that out. And even if you just want to do it in 2-week blocks, at least that's still got a little bit of thought and planning process behind it. And then obviously start to create the content. And I would say to try and, push it forward in the best way possible is to try with that 1 post a day consistency. Don't know if you've had any changes in terms of the times that you post.
We touched on earlier, didn't we, the fact that LinkedIn will continue to show people content for quite a long time afterwards if the content's good enough. I find there's not a huge amount of difference in terms of. I mean, I've posted like the nature of some of the radio work that I do. I'm up posting at like 4:30 in the morning. Totally surprised that there's other people kind of liking stuff 4:30 on a Sunday morning, for example. So I'm not sure it's all that significant, but it is something that people should test themselves and just see. Like it might differ from from region to region, country to country, audience to audience. What works for someone.
I guess another tip as well. It's all right you posting, but if you're then not doing anything yourself in terms of engaging with any other audience on there, like you're not really going to do yourself many favours. Like you need to build your connections with the right people. You need to be commenting, liking, being active on there daily, as well as you just posting something and hoping for the best.
Yep. I think there's some good tips there. Right, thank you for joining us. You can find all our episodes at content360.fm, where you can also find out more about us and get in touch. And we'll catch you next time on Content 360.